and welcome back to the channel. So the international break is almost over and we can finally have a chance to look forward to the football that's coming on the weekend. And I just wanted to run through some of the latest news roundups before we start getting back into some normality, where we can actually start talking about predicted squad lineups and then getting back into the match reviews and everything else that we normally do. There's been a couple of stories that have been breaking today, but I wanted to say basically that I didn't do a video over the weekend because I don't want to continually cover stories that I've already covered. I don't want to be seen to clickbait, basically by talking about the Salah contract thing every single video. We know where everything stands in terms of Salah. We've seen the stories in terms of that he wants to stay. We know about the interview he gave on Sky Sports. There is another bit of news that I've seen today, which basically reports that Liverpool are willing to break their usual contract rule for a player over 30 to keep Salah on board. So it does seem like everything is kind of progressing the right way in terms of the Salah contract. But I want to go over some other bits of news that are coming out around the club today and just offer my thoughts and my opinions on them. So the first one is with regards to Kelleher. So Kelleher has basically come out in an interview and said that basically reiterating something that we already know. He wants to be a number one at a football club. He wants to be playing week in, week out. And then with Liverpool's decision to sign Mamardashvili, it looks like that's not going to be the case at Liverpool, so therefore he is looking to move, which I think this is something that we already knew anyway. We all kind of knew that Kelleher would be basically the victim in this transfer scenario. We've got Mamardashvili in. There's going to be this thing between who's going to be number one, who's going to be number two, Alisson, Mamardashvili, what's going to happen in the future. No one really knows. But the truth is that Kelleher was always likely to be pushed out, and he has explained before that he wants to be a number one somewhere, and that the chances are that he'll need to leave the club in order to do that. So I think that what we will kind of hear, probably ramping up more and more in towards as we get closer and closer to the January transfer window, is stories around Kelleher potentially leaving, what Liverpool are looking for in terms of a price tag for him to be able to go. And personally, I hold no ill feelings towards him. I think that whenever Kelleher has played for Liverpool, he's always looked fantastic. And I think I said it in a previous video as well, that the Mamardashvili, the sign of Mamardashvili I found quite weird, because if he was coming in to become a number one, what would that mean for Kelleher, who is someone who I do rate highly? He's always played really well for us. He was one of the reasons why we've won some of the cups that we have. He covered brilliantly for Alisson last season when Alisson was out injured. And so I do feel sorry for him in this situation, but I also do understand completely that a player's career is quite short, so therefore he wants to go somewhere. He wants to be number one. And I think that him getting that move would be, it would be good for him to be able to fulfill that, that ambition of his to become a number one goalkeeper. It would also benefit the club that he signs for, because they will get a brilliant goalkeeper in return. Obviously, thinking back to the words that Klopp said before, that Liverpool were lucky in a way that they had the best number one in the world and the best number two in the world. I do completely agree with that. I think Kelleher has been absolutely fantastic, and I can't think of a number two goalkeeper that's better than Kelleher. But also, if Liverpool can get a decent fee for him, then that can go back into, rejuvenating or rebuilding certain areas of the squad that need investment. I think it's a move that makes sense all round. So hopefully, we'll hear more in the coming weeks and months, and hopefully Kelleher does get his move and he does get to go and showcase, the fact that he is capable of being a number one at another club. The next bit of news that I saw was regards to Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, I want to preface this by saying it has come from a Spanish newspaper. I think the newspaper's called Sport, and they've basically provided an update on the Trent situation, where they're saying that Trent has refused a contract from Liverpool because his mind is already made up. He wants to join Real Madrid. Now, we've all heard the contracts, the stories that came out about Trent, specifically after the Euros had finished. We know that Jude Bellingham's his best mate. We know all of this kind of stuff that was coming out around the time. But what I find weird about this story is that obviously Trent and Liverpool have all said that we want to keep this private. We don't want this in, they want to keep it behind the scenes out of respect for each other, out of respect for the club. They want to do their negotiations in private, and then we'll learn more as and when that news is going to start breaking. So how Sport have got the information to say that Trent has refused Liverpool seems a little bit suspect to me. Now, I also did used to live in Spain for a few years, and I do know that sometimes the Spanish newspapers, especially when they're linked to a club, they're not afraid to release these kind of stories, in some ways to put pressure on a player, in some ways to put pressure on a club, and various other things, especially when you have things like president elections at certain football clubs. That'll release stories about players wanting to sign if they vote for a particular president to take over or to continue the running of the football club. So I genuinely take this with a massive pinch of salt. I don't honestly think that Trent has communicated, or Trent's agent or his representatives or anyone he works with, I don't think that they have gone and communicated this to a Spanish newspaper to say, yes, we've rejected the contract. But at the same time, I do think there is something that, we probably do need to hear some news from about this situation, because it is obviously a bit strange that we know the Mo Salah thing's been very public, very out in the open. We know Van Dijk has come out and said that he wants to stay at the club. He's been very public, he's been very open. I think that he's come out again recently and said that he wants to stay at Liverpool. He mentioned something about he still feels that he can play at the top for a few more years yet, and he wants that to be at Liverpool. So with these big public contract declarations and notifications and stories that are coming out, the Trent one is very quiet. And I suppose, if you were going to put your conspiracy head on, or if you were looking at things a little bit differently, you'd ask the question, okay, well, why did he want to do this in the background and hasn't come out and stated that he wants to carry on playing for Liverpool? Again, this is also supplemented with other stories that I've heard that Trent does want to sign for Liverpool. He does see himself as the future Liverpool captain, and that's something that he really wants to achieve in his career, is to get to that point. So I just wanted to basically talk about that and just say that I don't necessarily believe that this story is true. I don't believe that Trent has rejected a contract offer, and I don't believe that Sport in Spain would have got this news before anybody else, especially not from, for example, the likes of Joyce and Ornstein and the big sort of reporters and journalists that are associated with Liverpool, and especially with a news story this big. So I think it's interesting that he's still being linked with Madrid. I think that it's a way of keeping Madrid in Trent's mind. But at the same time, I think if there is any ounce of truth in this, we would expect to hear some news from Joyce and from Ornstein where perhaps they put a little bit of spin on this, either A, to just outright deny it, or B, to put a little bit of a spin on it for Liverpool fans to sort of hear it and then think, okay, this is the situation that's going on. Personally, for me, I think that with all these contract talks and everything that's just kind of been dragging on and on and on, we're at a point now, I think, as a fan base and as a football club, where we just need to start getting these deals done. It's brilliant hearing that Liverpool want to keep Salah and Salah wants to stay at Liverpool. If it's that easy, just instead of releasing stories, just go and negotiate the offer and then get it signed. The same with Van Dijk, although I do find it interesting that I'm hearing stories that Liverpool want to keep Trent and Liverpool want to keep Salah, but Van Dijk's been the one that's been probably the most quiet, and instead I'm hearing stories coming out saying that Liverpool are linked with players such as Ignacio from Sporting, Bremer from Juventus, and various other defenders that we're now suddenly being linked with. So I do want to see, and I do want to hear that these contract negotiations, are getting done and dusted and resolved as soon as possible. So hopefully, now that the international break is coming to an end and the players are going to start coming back to the clubs, we can actually start hearing some good news in response to these contracts. So that's it really on the news front. Again, I didn't want to just spam loads of videos out saying, oh, Salah said this, or Liverpool have said this about Salah, and so on and so forth. So this is hopefully going to be the last sort of roundup video that I'm going to do until the next international break, which I think is in a few weeks' time. But instead we can go back to the normal style videos that we've been doing. I also just want to say I've also bought a new camera now, so hopefully the issues that I've had where it looked like I was recording from a potato will be improved. It hasn't arrived yet, the reason why this video doesn't look as bad is because the camera I've got doesn't work very well in low light conditions, so it makes everything look a little bit pixelated at time and blurry and so on and so forth. So hopefully in the future we're going to have some better videos, better live streams, and the channel's just going to start looking a lot better for everybody who comes in here, and also looks better from my point of view as well. So yeah, I just wanted to get those stories out there. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on the Trent situation. Also, let me know what your thoughts are on the Kelleher situation as well. Would you be happy for Kelleher to go in search of first team football? And do you think that Trent will sign a new contract, or do you think that the move to Madrid is probably the more likely of the options at the moment? So again, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will speak to you all soon. Take care and goodbye.